Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Monday, February 8th, 2021. A big show today. We'll recap the Super Bowl and talk about all of the other subplots to it. College basketball, NBA, and NHL. We'll look back on the weekend's games and look ahead to today's games. A big Major League Baseball free agent signing. A NBA trade. A passing of a great reporter from ESPN, NFL offseason predictions, and my best bet of the day. All right, we're going to start with the Super Bowl, of course, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeat the Kansas City Chiefs by a surprising score of 31-9 as the Bucs win their second Super Bowl in franchise history. Tom Brady wins his 7th Super Bowl and his 5th Super Bowl MVP award, as Bruce Arians wins his first Super Bowl as a head coach. So that must feel good for him. And Andy Reid drops to 1-2 in the Super Bowl. Brady, as I mentioned, the Super Bowl MVP, 21 of 29, 201 yards and 3 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes, 26 of 49, 270 yards and 2 interceptions. First quarter, Chiefs actually go up 3-0 on a field goal by Harrison Butker, 49 yards. Then, with 37 seconds left in the first quarter, 8-yard pass from Tom Brady to Rob Gronkowski, 7-3 Bucs. Second quarter, with 6:05 left in the second quarter, 17 yards from Brady to Gronk, 14-3. 34-yard field goal by Harrison Butker to make it 14-6. And 6 seconds before halftime, 1-yard pass from Brady to Antonio Brown, 21-6. Halftime. The Weeknd does a great job with his performance, highlighted by the finale of the show with his hit song, Blinded by the Lights. That was pretty cool. Third quarter, 52-yard field goal by Harrison Butker makes it 21-9. 7:45 left in the third. 27-yard run by Leonard Fournette, 28-9. Then with 2:46 left in the third, Ryan Suckup 52-yard field goal, 31-9. And that was the ball game. No scoring in the fourth quarter as the Bucs just ran the ball and milked the clock. And KC kind of just gave up. The losses of Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz ultimately came back to haunt the Chiefs. And the Bucs in that pass rush took advantage. So, not a game that lived up to the hype, certainly. But this is a legacy game for Tom Brady. And even if he lost, it wouldn't have tarnished his legacy. It only would have helped if he won. So his legacy is certainly cemented as the greatest ever if it wasn't already. And I would have called him the greatest ever even if he lost this game yesterday. And Patrick Mahomes, unfortunately for me, this takes a hit on his resume going forward. Because being claimed as the best quarterback in football, and you could argue really should have been back-to-back MVP in 2018 and 19 if he didn't get injured, and had another great season this year. He just laid an egg, unfortunately. I know the losses of the tackles certainly hurt. The penalties that the Chiefs took in this game were ridiculous. Some of them were weak calls. Weak calls or not, the Chiefs really got their butts handed to them by the Bucs last night. And that's credit to Bruce Arians, Tom Brady, and someone that I think is going to get a boost a little bit on his resume, former Jets head coach and now Bucs defensive coordinator Todd Bowles, who really had a really smart game plan, and the Bucs offense really did its job in really exposing Steve Spagnuolo's defense, which really stepped up in the fourth quarter of last year's Super Bowl against the 49ers, in which the Chiefs came back from 12 down in the fourth quarter to beat the 49ers last year. And now it turns to the offseason for both these teams. Brady's certainly going to be back. Looks like Bruce Arians is coming back. The Bucks have a lot of free agents they have to take care of. We'll get into that in the bold prediction segment. And the Chiefs, to me, they have some flaws that were masked by the brilliance of Patrick Mahomes. Their offensive line, even with those tackles out, could use some help, especially on the interior. And their defense needs some reinforcements as well. And they have a couple wide receivers that are going to be free agents, so that leaves them a hole at wide receiver outside of Tyreek Hill. They're fine at running back. They're obviously fine at tight end. Interior offensive line could use some help, and then obviously the front seven could use some help from Kansas City as well. So should be an interesting offseason for both of these teams, and you'll see my predictions for each of these teams in my offseason prediction segment. And one more thing, I thought the commercials in the Super Bowl were brilliant. I'm not a big commercials person, but this round of commercials this year I thought were pretty good. My favorite one was the Sesame Street DoorDash commercial with all the people in your neighborhood. I thought that was a neat commercial. The Doritos one was very funny. There were a couple other ones that stood out to me as well during the big game yesterday. So there you have it. Super Bowl recap. Super Bowl 55, I should say. Now we'll move on to college basketball as we will go over the results from the weekend and look ahead to the slate for today. Friday, North Dakota over Denver, 85-82 in overtime. UMass Lowell over New Hampshire, 74-69. Rice over Southern Miss, 88-62. Merrimack over St. Francis, Pennsylvania, 59-54. Wagner over St. Francis, Brooklyn, 84-81 in overtime. Fairleigh Dickinson over Long Island, 77-62. IPOI over Green Bay, 80-71. Texas State over Little Rock, 57-47. Liberty over Lancaster, Bible, 90-49. Radford over South Carolina, Upstate, 102-66. Northern Kentucky over Milwaukee, 87-73. Detroit Mercy over Purdue Fort Wayne, 82-72. Gardner Webb over Presbyterian, 91-64. Florida Gulf Coast over North Alabama, 86-60. Akron over Kent State, 72-61. Penn State over Maryland, 55-50. Dayton over George Mason, 74-65. Youngstown State over Robert Morris, 84-78 in overtime. Cleveland State over Oakland, 80-72. Bellarmine over Jacksonville, 71-56. Texas Arlington over UL Monroe, 63-56. Troy over Georgia Southern, 68-56. Arkansas State over Louisiana, 95-87. South Alabama over Coastal Carolina, 71-65. Middle Tennessee over Charlotte, 66-65. Old Dominion over Marshall, 82-81. UTSA over FIU, 87-80. Cal State Northridge over UC Davis, 80-77. UC Irvine over Cal State Bakersfield, 70-53. UAB over UTEP, 63-51. Stetson over Lipscomb, 73-68. Western Illinois over Omaha, 85-77. Wright State over UIC, 72-47. Louisiana Tech over North Texas, 68-63. South Dakota over South Dakota State, 64-56. North Dakota State over Oral Roberts, 61-54. Monmouth over Manhattan, 70-65. Nevada over Boise State, 74-72. Cal Baptist over New Mexico State, 85-75. Dixie State over Seattle, 77-76. And Hawaii over Cal Poly, 84-68. Saturday's results. Number 9, Oklahoma over Iowa State, 79-72. Number 18, Missouri over number 10, Alabama, 68-65. Number 16, Virginia Tech over Miami, 80-76 in overtime. Butler over DePaul, 68-58. Seton Hall over UConn, 80-73. NC State over BC, 81-65. Ball State over Toledo, 81-67. Fordham over LaSalle, 76-68. New Hampshire over UMass Lowell, 74-63. Charleston over Towson, 90-88 in double overtime. Citadel over Western Carolina, 74-63. Belmont over SIU Edwardsville, 94-62. Number 17, West Virginia over number 23, Kansas, 91-79. Number 25, Drake over Valpo, 80-77. Morgan State over Delaware State, 74-69. Southern Utah over Benedictine, Arizona, 110-58. Western Michigan over Central Michigan, 67-65. St. Louis over St. Bonaventure, 70-59. St. John's over Providence, 92-81. Loyola Chicago over Evansville, 68-55. Memphis over East Carolina, 66-59. Clemson over Syracuse, 78-61. Denver over North Dakota, 85-81 in overtime. Morton State over Austin Peay, 75-74 in overtime. North Texas over Louisiana Tech, 57-55. UTSA over FIU, 90-47. Buffalo over Miami of Ohio, 88-64. Drexel over Hofstra, 73-71. Weber State over Montana State, 82-74. Number 12, Illinois over number 19, Wisconsin, 75-60. Number 5, Houston over Our Lady, 112-46. Oklahoma State upsets number 6, Texas, 75-67 in double overtime. Missouri State over Illinois State, 74-67. Northern Kentucky over Milwaukee, 79-65. McNeese over Central Arkansas, 80-70. Rice over Southern Miss, 76-68. Portland State over Montana, 61-56. Eastern Washington over Idaho, 90-64. Mississippi State over South Carolina, 75-59. Number 13, Texas Tech over they're not ranked. Kansas State, 73-62. What am I saying? Kansas State's terrible. Number 14, Virginia over Pitt, 73-66. Bradley over Southern Illinois, 74-66. Oregon over Washington, 74. UNLV over Air Force, 68-58. Ole Miss over Auburn, 86-84 in overtime on a buzzer beater shot by Devontae Schuler with .2 left in overtime. Murray State over Eastern Kentucky, 76-64. Chattanooga over East Tennessee State, 67-65. Number 24, Purdue over Northwestern, 75-70. Incarnate Word over A&M Corpus Christi, 58-53. Jackson State over Alcorn State, 74-66. Number 15, Creighton over Marquette, 71-68. Lipscomb over Stetson, 69-61. Youngstown State over Robert Morris, 70-66 in overtime. Green Bay over IUPUI, 79-72. Detroit Mercy over Purdue Fort Wayne, 83-56. Cleveland State over Oakland, 80-78. Tennessee Martin over Tennessee Tech, 66-64. Jacksonville State over Southeast Missouri State, 66-54. Eastern Illinois over Tennessee State, 86-72. Bellarmine over Jacksonville, 63-44. Texas Arlington over UL Monroe, 58-52. Texas State over Little Rock, 77-67 in overtime. Georgia Southern over Troy, 79-64. South Alabama over Coastal Carolina, 70-66. Arkansas State over Louisiana, 83-77. UAB over UTEP, 75-60. Middle Tennessee over Charlotte, 73-60. UC Davis over Cal State Northridge, 75-63. Abilene Christian over Lamar, 77-62. Alabama State over Arkansas Pine Bluff, 73-67. Alabama A&M over Mississippi Valley State, 93-58. Indiana State over Northern Iowa, 61-57. Oregon State over Washington State, 68-66. UCF over Tulsa, 65-58. Colorado State over Wyoming, 68-59. North Carolina over Duke, 91-87. Georgia over Vandy, 73-70. Sam Houston State over Nichols, 78-71. Wofford over Furman, 75-67. Michigan State over Nebraska, 66-56. Florida Gulf Coast over North Alabama, 69-60. Marshall over Old Dominion, 87-67. Pepperdine over Portland, 91-70. Number 11, Tennessee over Kentucky, 71. Texas Rio Grande over Texas Southern, Texas Southern over Texas Rio Grande, 77-75. Texas Rio Grande lost their coach over the weekend. Thoughts and prayers go out to that school. Colorado over Arizona, 82-79. UMass over Rhode Island, 75-63. Georgia Tech over Notre Dame, 82-80. Western Illinois over Omaha, 75-73. Wright State over UIC, 77-57. Grambling over Southern, 72-69. South Dakota State over South Dakota, 89-78. Oral Roberts over North Dakota State, 80-74. Tarleton over Southwest Adventist, 97-26. Monmouth over Manhattan, 71-69 in overtime. New Mexico State over Cal Baptist, 97-70. Seattle over Dixie State, 77-56. USC over number 21 UCLA, 66-48. Cal State Bakersfield over UC Irvine, 62-57. And Hawaii over Cal Poly, 81-64. Sunday, Indiana defeats number 8 Iowa, 67-65. Loyola Maryland over Lafayette, 75-72 or 62. Cincinnati over Tulane, 64-61. UMBC over Stony Brook, 71-65. Charleston over Towson, 66-53. Valpo defeats number 25 Drake, 74-57. So Drake is no longer undefeated. High Point over Hampton, 72-58. Quinnipiac over Fairfield, 78-63. Norfolk State over Coppin State, 84-72. Loyola Chicago over Evansville, 69-58. Hofstra over Drexel, 79-74. Number 3 Villanova over Georgetown, 84-74. Missouri State over Illinois State, 72-62. Wichita State over Temple, 70-67. UC San Diego over Vestetta, 101-64. Northern Iowa over Indiana State, 70-67. Southern Illinois over Bradley, 69-68. Nevada over Boise State, 73-62. And Stanford over Cal, 76-70. All right, now we'll look ahead to the games for today. A bigger Monday slate than it normally would be. First up, UMBC and Stony Brook. I project UMBC as a 5-point favorite. Meanwhile, the line for this game is UMBC by 2.5. So I'm going to lay to 2.5 with UMBC over Stony Brook. I did not do totals today because I did not have time. Rochester, Youngstown State, we can skip. 2 o'clock, Quinnipiac and Fairfield. My line is Quinnipiac 3.5, and that's what it is. Total is 135, 133.5. I'm going to take the over at minus 106. 3 o'clock, Eastern Kentucky at SIU Edwardsville. My line is Eastern by 9, and it's 9.5. Total is 150.5, and I'm going to take the under. I just think that's high. 4 o'clock, High Point Hampton. My line is High Point by 0.5, and it's 1.5. Total is 140.5. I'm going to take the under, but I don't feel good about it. 5 o'clock, Gardner Webb, South Carolina Upstate. My line is Gardner by 6, and it's 5.5. Total is 143.5. I'm going to take another under, but I don't feel good about it. ESPNU, UNC Greensboro against Furman. My line is Greensboro 2.5. And it is Furman 4.5. I'm taking Greensboro plus the 4.5 at minus 120, and I'm taking the win straight up at plus 158. St. Francis, Brooklyn at Long Island. My line is LIU by 4, and it's 5.5. Total's 155.5, and I'm going to take the under. I think that's too high. ESPN2, SMU, East Carolina. My line is SMU by 11. And it's 6.5. I'm going to lay to 6.5 with SMU against East Carolina. Next up, 6 o'clock, NC Central, Florida A&M. My line is Central by 4.5. And it's Florida A&M by 1.5. I'm taking Central plus 1.5 and plus 104 on the money line. 7 o'clock, Loyola, Maryland at Lafayette. My line is Lafayette by 5.5. And it's 2.5. I'm going to lay to 2.5 with Lafayette against Loyola, Maryland. Samford, Mercer. My line is Mercer 3. And it's 9.5. I'm taking Samford plus 9.5 at minus 105 to keep the game close. Oregon State, Colorado on the Pac-12 network. My line is Colorado 4. And it's 12.5. I'm taking Oregon State plus the points to keep this close. Coppin State, Norfolk State on ESPNU. My line is Norfolk 6.5, and it's 7.5. Total's 152.5. I'm taking the under at minus 112. That's too high. ESPN, Miami and North Carolina. Not as good as a game as it's been in the past couple of seasons. Don't forget, Miami hit a buzzer beater 3 a couple years ago at Chapel Hill. I project Carolina by 9. And it's 10.5. Total 139.5. I'm going to take the over at minus 114. Austin P, Tennessee Martin. My line is Austin P by 10. And it is 12.5. I'm taking Tennessee Martin plus the 12.5 to keep it within the number. 8 o'clock, Abilene Christian, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. My line is Christian by 15.5. And that's what it is. Total's 130.5, and I'm going to take the over at minus 114. Christian might be able to do it kind of by themselves. Nebraska, Minnesota. This game's probably on the Big Ten Network. My line is Minnesota 5.5, and it's 11.5. I'm taking Nebraska plus the points to keep it within the number. 8:30, Grambling, Alcorn. My line is Grambling 6, and it's 1.5. I'm laying the 1.5 at Grambling at minus 115. Pine Bluff, Bama A&M. My line is Bama A&M 8, and it's 10.5. I'm taking Pine Bluff plus 10.5 to keep it relatively within the number. 9 o'clock, Fox Sports 1, number 7, Ohio State at Maryland. My line is Ohio State 10, and it's 3.5. I'm going to lay to 3.5 at Ohio State against Maryland. You know everyone's probably going to jump on Maryland. Oh, Maryland's a dog. It's a short line. I think it's the other way around. I love Ohio State tonight against Maryland. I have a huge edge on the Buckeyes. ESPN, 9 o'clock. Oklahoma State at number 23, Kansas. My line is Kansas 2.5, and Kansas is probably not going to be ranked by the time we're talking tomorrow, win or lose tonight. And it's 5.5. I'm taking Oklahoma State plus a 5.5 at -115 to keep it within the number. CBS Sports Network, Air Force UNLV. My line is UNLV by 9. And it's 13.5. I'm taking Air Force plus the points at -105 to keep it within the number. ESPNU, Jackson State Southern. My line is Jackson State 1. And it's Southern 4.5. I'm taking Jackson State plus a 4.5 at -120 and plus 160 to win on the money line. Mississippi Valley State and Alabama State. My line is Bama State by 6. And it's 18.5. I'm taking Mississippi Valley State plus 18.5 at -104 to keep it within that number. I think that's way too high. 11 o'clock ESPN. Number 1 Gonzaga at BYU. My line's Gonzaga 5. And it's 10.5. I'm taking BYU plus a 10.5 at -105 to keep it close. And Fox Sports 1, San Jose State, San Diego State. My line is San Diego State 13.5, and it's 26.5. I'm taking San Jose State plus a 26.5 at -112 to keep that game within the number. Alrighty, so there you have it for college basketball for the day. And now we'll move on to the NBA. We'll look back on yesterday's and the weekend's games, and we will look ahead to the slate for tonight, which is 8 games. All right, so Friday night, Pelicans over the Pacers, 114-113. Magic over the Bulls, 123-119. Raptors over the Nets, 123-117. The story of this game was Kevin Durant was in contact with somebody who tested positive for COVID, and they let him play for a little bit. And then he initially didn't start because of health and safety protocols. Then they said he was allowed to play, and then they pulled him and said he wasn't allowed to play. Crazy. Bucks over the Cavs, 123-105. Jazz over the Hornets, 138-121. So best bet from Friday, cashed easily. Heat over the Wizards, 122-95. Timberwolves over the Thunder, 106-93. Or 106-103, my bad. Suns over the Pistons, 109-92. Celtics over the Clippers, 119-115 without Jaylen Brown. Well, Paul George didn't play either. Saturday, Knicks over the Trailblazers, 110-99. Kings over the Nuggets, 119-114. Bulls over the Magic, 118-92. 76ers over the Nets, 124-108. Hawks over the Raptors, 132-121. Bucks over the Cavs, 124-99. Spurs over the Rockets, 111-106. First time the Rockets have lost with John Wall playing since they traded James Harden. Thunder over the Wolves, 120-118. Mavs over the Warriors, 132-134. Good bounce back for the Mavericks after that terrible loss on TNT. Pelicans over the Grizzlies, 118-109. And Lakers over the Pistons, 135-129 in double overtime. Sunday, Jazz over the Pacers, 103-95. Heat over the Knicks, 109-103. Hornets over the Wizards, 119-97. Suns over the Celtics, 191. And Kings over the Clippers, 113-110. All right, so like I said, 8 games today, 7 o'clock NBA TV of the Rockets at the Hornets. My line, depending on the status of PJ Washington, Houston 3 or Houston 5. Total 221. Meanwhile, FanDuel has Rockets 3, total 222. In case PJ does play, you would have to take under, but PJ Washington has not played in a while, so I'm going to lay the 3 with the Rockets against Charlotte. I'm going to bank on him not playing tonight and project the Rockets as a 5-point road favorite at Charlotte. 8 o'clock, Wizards Bulls. My line is Bulls by a half, total 233.5. Meanwhile, it's Bulls 2.5, total 236. I am going to take another Wizards under. It worked yesterday. I don't know if it'll work again today. 2.5-point edge on the under between the Wizards and the Bulls. Raptors Grizzlies. My line is Memphis 1.5, total 222. Meanwhile, it's Toronto 3, total 224. Oh, wait. Jaren Jackson Jr. hasn't played all year, so we really don't have to adjust for him. If anything, we'll adjust in the positive when he comes back. I'm taking Memphis plus a 3 and plus 122 on the money line. They're better than Toronto, arguably. They have the best player on the court, potentially. with John Morant. So give me Memphis plus the 3 and plus 122 on the money line. 8:30 Timberwolves Mavericks. My line's Dallas 11.5 total of 223. No, it's 9.5 total 224.5. I'm going to lay the 11 or the 9.5 with Dallas. Karl Anthony Towns is still out with COVID, so I'm laying the 9.5 with Dallas against the Timberwolves. Warriors Spurs. My line is Golden State 2.5 total 226. Meanwhile, it's San Antonio 1.5 total 233. I'm taking the under. Total's too high. I think this is an overreaction to Golden State's offensive explosion in their last 2 games. I would take Golden State too. So Golden State and under parlay would be fun, but I'd rather the under. I have a huge edge on the under. My total is 226 and they're at 233, so I'm taking under 233. 9 o'clock, Cavs Suns. My line is Suns 9 total 215. Well, it's Suns 7.5 total 215.5. I have no choice but to lay the 7.5 with the Suns. I have a 1.5 edge on the Suns, minus 108, so I'm going to lay the 7.5 with the Suns against the Cavs. Next up is the Bucks at the Nuggets, 9:30 NBA TV. That's the best game on the board tonight. I project Milwaukee by 2.5 total 230. Meanwhile, it's Milwaukee 2.5. We don't have a total, or 4.5. We don't have a total yet. I'm taking Denver plus 4.5. Will Denver win? I don't know, but this is a good opportunity for Denver to end their little schneid against a good team and for themselves to get a good win against a good team. And last but not least, 10 o'clock Thunder Lakers. My line's Lakers 14 total 219.5. And it's Lakers 11.5 total 217. I'm going to lay the points with the Lakers. It's either the Lakers or the under. The over. 2.5 point edge on the over. And a 2.5 point edge on the Lakers. So I'm going to lay with the Lakers. There's a chance Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doesn't play. My projection has him playing. And even without him, that my line goes up to 17. So I'm going to lay the 11.5 with the Lakers. And take a chance potentially that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander may not play. And I do think LeBron and AD will play. They just seem like they're questionable every night. Sometimes AD doesn't play. Sometimes he does. But I'm going to bank on AD playing. And I think there's a chance Shai Gilgeous-Alexander sits this one out for Oklahoma City tonight. All right, now we'll move on to the NHL. We will look back on yesterday's games and look ahead to the games for tonight, and obviously look back on the weekend's games as well. Friday, Bruins over Flyers 2-1, Lightning over the Red Wings 3-1, Panthers over the Predators 2-1, Golden Knights over the Kings 5-2. It's good to see the Golden Knights back in action. And the Sharks over the Ducks 5-4 in a shootout. Saturday, Canadiens over the Senators 2-1, Coyotes over the Blues 3-1, Islanders over the Penguins 4-3, Maple Leafs over the Canucks 5-1, Flames over the Oilers 6-4, Ducks over the Sharks 2-1 in a shootout. Sabres Bruins postponed to the Sabres COVID outbreak. Sunday, Flyers over the Capitals 7-4, Red Wings over the Panthers 4-1 as the Panthers are handed their first regulation loss of the year, and the Red Wings end their 8-game losing streak. Hurricanes over the Blue Jackets 6-5, Blackhawks over the Stars 2-1 in overtime, and Golden Knights over the Kings 4-3. Avs, Blues, and Coyotes Wild postponed because of the Avs and Wilds because of their COVID issues, respectively. Today's slate, 7 o'clock, you have the Islanders and the Rangers. A big game from Madison Square Garden. Rematch from their first 2 matches in which they split. One got a 4-0 win, the other got a 5-0 win. Rangers are minus 118 favorites. Isles are even money over under 5.5. Rangers minus 1.5 is plus 215. Islanders plus 1.5 is minus 260. I'm going to take the... This is tough. I'm going to go with the over. I don't like what I've seen from the Islanders' goaltending of late. They nearly blew that game against the Penguins, but their offense came through. They've been an over team lately, so I'm going to say over 5.5 between the Islanders and the Rangers. Although the Rangers, meanwhile, I flipped back into an under team because of their strong goaltending. Sabres Bruins postponed due to the Sabres COVID issues. The Sabres should be back in action later in the week. Hurricanes Blue Jackets, my bad. Hurricanes minus 148. Blue Jackets plus 126. Over under 5.5. Carolina minus 1.5 is plus 190. Columbus plus 1.5 is minus 230. I'm going to take a chance here and take the underdog Blue Jackets plus 126. I like how they're playing, so give me Columbus plus 126 to win at home as an underdog. Oilers Senators. Oilers minus 210. Sens plus 176. Over under 6.5. Overs minus 135. Unders plus 115. Edmonton minus 1.5 is plus 126. Sens plus 1.5 is minus 148. I'm going to take another over, even though it's juiced at minus 135. North Division overs feel like guarantees for a lot of the season, so give me the over. Canucks Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs minus 210. Canucks plus 176. Over under 6.5. Overs minus 125. Under is plus 105. Canucks plus 1.5 is minus 152. Maple Leafs minus 1.5 is plus 128. I'm going to take another over at minus 125. Both of these teams' offenses have been pretty strong of late, so I give you the over 6.5. And yet again, another North Division over. 8 o'clock, Lightning Predators. The Lightning are minus 162. Preds are plus 136. Over under 5.5. Over is minus 120. Under is even money. Tampa Bay minus 1.5 is plus 176. Nashville plus 1.5 is minus 210. I'm going to make a ballsy play and take the under at even money. I think Andre Vasilevsky can have a strong game as well as whomever starts for Nashville, whether it's Juuse Saros or Pekka Rinne. This could be a 3-2 game either way, or maybe 4-1. So it could be under 5.5. And last but not least, Coyotes Blues. These two teams are playing each other because their opponents I believe it's because their opponents, they're supposed to be opponents are on COVID pause with Minnesota and Colorado. So I think these two teams actually scheduled to play each other, and they moved the schedule around a little bit, which was smart by the league. Coyotes plus 136, Blues minus 162, over under 5.5, overs plus 105, unders minus 125. Coyotes plus 1.5 is minus 215, Blues minus 1.5 is plus 180. I'm going to take a over here at plus 105. Both of these teams have been scoring the puck a lot lately, so give me the over. I think this could be a 4-2 game with the last goal being an empty netter. All right, some news from the weekend. First, we'll talk about the signing of Trevor Bauer to the Los Angeles Dodgers. 3 years, $100 million. What a ballsy signing by the Dodgers, as they have an epic response to the Padres making all their moves this offseason. And what a great signing. And what, like I said, an FU to the Padres and obviously the Mets, who looked like the front runners for Trevor Bauer. So it's $102 million, not $100 million. So Bauer will be making $32 million a year about. And now the Dodgers rotation consists of Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Trevor Bauer, David Price, and Julio Urias. That is the best rotation in the league, in my mind. The best starting five. And that gives you a chance to win every game. They won't win every game, obviously, but that gives you a chance to win every game. And they better hope for no injuries, and they better hope David Price opts in for the season and doesn't opt out. Because, they didn't miss David Price last year. But if they had lost the Rays series or lost a series on their way to the World Series, they could have looked back at that. Especially the Atlanta series. If they had lost that series, because let's face it, their pitching wasn't all that special early on in that series, and they fell down 3-1 against the Braves. And people would be like, oh, they missed David Price. But no, they rallied back from that series, and then they took on the Rays and beat them in 6. So, Trevor Bauer to the Dodgers is just incredible. And they could still potentially resign Justin Turner. He's still sitting there as a free agent. And they were in the running for DJ LeMahieu to the Dodgers, and that would have been a big slap in the face to the New York Yankees and to all the other teams that were in play to sign him. But DJ ultimately took a discount and went back to New York because he wanted to win and he loved it with the Yankees. So he went back there on a 6-year, $90 million contract, which is probably the biggest steal of a contract of the offseason. And so the Mets, despite losing out on Trevor Bauer, I still think that they've had a quality offseason. They had Carlos Carrasco to be in the middle of their rotation. They trade for Francisco Lindor, which could go down as the best move of the offseason, depending on how improved the Mets are. So they didn't have a bad offseason. Obviously, Carrasco and Lindor came together in the trade. They upgraded catcher James McCann. Their outfield's better with some depth that they added. They had Albert Almora Jr., who was a fourth outfielder really on the Cubs, but he should help them from a defensive standpoint. And they do have options with some of their guys. And obviously they lose Robinson Cano due to the PED suspension. So the Mets didn't need Trevor Bauer, but it would have been nice if they signed him because that would have given them depth in their rotation. And their bullpen's improved with a couple signings. So the Mets are very active, but it does feel like classic Mets for a guy to spurn them for a more superior team. But that said, they still have had a solid offseason in my mind. And the Dodgers, who are obviously the reigning champs, make themselves better with this signing. It makes themselves, in my opinion, clear favorites to not only represent the National League in the World Series again, but to repeat as World Series champions. They're doing what the Lakers did pretty much and just reloading their roster. Now, like I said, I don't think the Dodgers are done yet. I think that they could re-sign Justin Turner and sign a bullpen arm. So they're taking after their Los Angeles counterpart in the Lakers by not sitting back on their feet in the offseason. An NBA trade happened yesterday. Derrick Rose was traded from the Detroit Pistons to the New York Knicks for Dennis Smith Jr. in the 2021 second-round pick, which is the Charlotte Hornets pick. I don't really love this trade for the Knicks. I think that they had some nice chemistry going with some of their young players, especially their young point guard Emmanuel Quickley, who they took in the first round last year with the pick they got from the Clippers and the Marcus Morris deal. And if he takes away minutes from Emmanuel Quickley, and I'm referring to Derrick Rose, then this is a bad trade. And if the Knicks don't make the postseason, this is a bad trade. The playing tournament, I think, would be a success for the Knicks because that is still considered postseason games. So they got to make the playoffs now with this trade. Rose is obviously an upgrade over Elfrid Payton from an offensive standpoint, but defensively, Payton's better. So they get worse defensively in this trade, but their offense gets better with the acquisition of Derrick Rose. And I question a little bit of the chemistry. Rose has a weird ego. He was a Knick 4 years ago and underachieved massively. And that team underachieved massively. They had Melo, they had Rose, Joakim Noah, and Porzingis, and Courtney Lee as their starting five, which is pretty solid. But it's obvious that starting five would have been better 4 years prior to that rather than in 2017. So it's going to be interesting to see if Rose will come off the bench or start. But I think that this is a precursor to another move, whether New York trades Austin Rivers or even Elfrid Payton. And Rose is obviously there to stay because that's Tom Thibodeau's boy. He coached him with the Bulls, obviously, when Rose won the MVP back in 2011. And he coached him in Minnesota with the Timberwolves as well. So this is their third time together. And from Detroit's standpoint, they take a flyer on a failed lottery pick in Dennis Smith Jr., who was a piece that New York got in the Kristaps Porzingis trade. And they get that second-round pick from Charlotte, which could be a good second or a bad second, depending on how Charlotte finishes their season. And that second-round pick came to the Knicks in the trade and sent Willie Hernangomez to Charlotte. And so it's a flyer for the Pistons to see what they got with Dennis Smith Jr. Smith Jr. will see a lot of playing time with the trade. And Killian Hayes was somebody that benefited from Derrick Rose being there. So it's going to be interesting to see how Hayes reacts to that. And that's a good thing if you're Emmanuel Quickley, in my opinion, because a young rookie point guard was benefited by Derrick Rose, and we'll see if that benefits Quickley, and that makes him an even better player than he already is. So I think it's a risky trade on both sides, and I think this could turn out to potentially be a win-win or a lose-lose, depending on how Smith performs with the Pistons and where that second-round pick lands, and if Derrick Rose performs well and the Knicks make the postseason in result of that trade. We had some sad news break during the Super Bowl last night as ESPN lost one of its better reporters. Pedro Gomez unexpectedly passed away at the age of 58. He was a great reporter for ESPN, covering mostly Major League Baseball. He covered Barry Bonds' chase to pass Hank Aaron in the home run chase. He did a lot of spring training coverage for Major League Baseball. He was a commentator for games as well on ESPN, as he did some sideline reporting like how Buster Olney does on Sunday Night Baseball. He did a little bit of that as well on Monday Night or Wednesday Night Baseball. And he is somebody that was big in the Cuban community. And it's just a sad loss for not only ESPN in the media, but for Major League Baseball and obviously his family. He leaves behind his wife and children. His one son plays baseball, and I remember recently he posted a picture of his son on Twitter, and that is just really, really sad. And Pedro was a good person too. He really put a smile on so many people's faces. And he also covered boxing as well. Statement from ESPN last night, and they broke the news in the middle of the Super Bowl at 9:58 p.m. We are shocked and saddened to learn that our friend and colleague Pedro Gomez has passed away. Pedro was an elite journalist at the highest level and his professional accomplishments are universally recognized. More importantly, Pedro was a kind, dear friend to all of us. Our hearts are with Pedro's family and all who love him at this extraordinarily difficult time. And obviously that came from James Patero, the chairman, and ESPN Sports and Content. So, sad news that broke towards the end of the Super Bowl. And obviously you're seeing the tributes pour out this morning and obviously last night on social media. Matt Vassurgeon did a very good tribute on MLB Network this morning. Obviously, they're colleagues because of ESPN. So, such a sad loss for the broadcasting community, the media, and ESPN and Major League Baseball. Just terrible. Thoughts and prayers to Pedro Gomez's family during this difficult time. Indeed. Now I'm going to do my NFL offseason predictions. This should be a lot of fun. I also have power rankings as well, so we'll go through 32-1, where every team stands at the end of the season as we look ahead to free agency and trade season in the NFL. So without further ado, here we go. Number 32, the New York Jets. My bold prediction for them is that they will select Justin Fields second overall. There's going to be rumors about them trading back. There's going to be rumors about them taking Devontae Smith and keeping Sam Darnold. But you'll see where I have Sam Darnold going as these power rankings go forward. So my bold prediction for the Jets is that they'll select Justin Fields second overall in the draft. Number 31, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The obvious prediction is that they're going to take Trevor Lawrence, but my bold prediction is that they'll sign cornerback William Jackson III in free agency. I think with Lawrence in hand, similar to Cincinnati last year when they knew they were taking Burrow, they're going to go out and be spenders in free agency to make themselves better. Number 30, the Detroit Lions. My bold prediction for them is that they franchise tag, then trade Kenny Golladay to the Baltimore Ravens for a 2021 first and a 2022 third. Baltimore has a need at wide receiver to go along with Marquise Brown. So I think that Golladay would be a good fit for Lamar Jackson and that team. And I think that Detroit wants to blow it up and start over. Number 29, the Houston Texans. My bold prediction is, spoiler alert, they'll trade Deshaun Watson. I'm not going to give away the team yet. My bold prediction is that they'll draft Devontae Smith with their pick that they get back from whomever acquires Deshaun Watson. Number 28, the Cincinnati Bengals. My bold prediction for them is that they'll sign Joe Thuney in free agency. I don't think that New England will franchise tag Joe Thuney. They do have a lot of cap space, but I don't know if they're going to be big spenders or not. So, and I think the Bengals will be big spenders again because I think that they want to build around Joe Burrow and help build that window of success. So I think they'll sign Joe Thuney to improve their offensive line. Number 27, the Carolina Panthers. I think they'll franchise tag, then extend Taylor Moton. Taylor Moton had a good year for the Panthers this year. So I think that they'll extend him. 26, the Atlanta Falcons. My bold prediction is that they'll sign Marcus May away from the Jets. They need safety help. They could very well lose Keanu Neal. So I think that they'll sign Marcus May. 25, the New England Patriots. My bold prediction is that they'll select Mac Jones in the first round. I don't know if he'll come in and start right away or they'll have him redshirt like how the Packers redshirted Jordan Love. Or how the Packers redshirted Aaron Rodgers when Brett Favre was still there. Number 24, the Las Vegas Raiders. My bold prediction is that they'll sign Anthony Harris away from the Minnesota Vikings. They need help in their secondary, and I think Harris will be a good fit. Number 23, the New York Football Giants. My bold prediction is that they'll re-sign Leonard Williams. They have a lot of free agents on their team, and they gave up a lot to get Leonard Williams, so they should re-sign him. I think it'd be a big loss if they didn't re-sign him, and that would make that an L trade for the New York Giants and a W trade for the New York Jets if they lose Leonard Williams in free agency. Maybe they do have a lot of cap space. Maybe they re-sign both Williams and Dalvin Tomlinson, but I think that they want to re-sign Leonard Williams. So, and I think they, actually, you know what, I'm going to double down. I think they re-sign both. I think they re-sign both players. Number 22, the Washington Professional Football Team. My bold prediction for them is that they'll sign Cam Newton. This is an obvious one for me because obviously this reunites Cam Newton with Ron Rivera, and they need a quarterback. And maybe Cam Newton will be rejuvenated playing under his former coach. Number 21, the Minnesota Vikings. My bold prediction is that they'll sign Carl Lawson. They obviously got rid of Everson Griffin, and they got rid of Yannick Ngakoue after trading for him, and they need help on the pass rush. So I think they'll sign Carl Lawson. Number 20, the Denver Broncos. My bold prediction for them is that they'll franchise tag, then extend Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons has been super underrated as a player, and Denver loves him, from what I told. So I think they'll franchise tag and extend him. 19, the Chicago Bears. My bold prediction is that they'll acquire Carson Wentz from the Philadelphia Eagles for Nick Foles, Tyreek Cohen, and a 2021 first-round pick. I think that's a lot for Wentz. But they give up the big Foles contract. I think Foles back in Philly will rejuvenate him. And Cohen, I think, would be a good fit on the Eagles. And getting a first in this deal would be awesome as well. And maybe the Eagles throw in a 2021 fourth-round pick as well. Number 18, the Philadelphia Eagles. My bold prediction is that they sign Richard Sherman. They need help in the secondary. And to me, Richard Sherman just screams Eagles. Like, Philadelphia going out and signing a player that's almost washed up is just so Eagles. 17, the Arizona Cardinals. I have them signing away Allen Robinson from the Chicago Bears. I think Larry Fitzgerald retires, and I think Allen Robinson wants out of the Chicago. And I think that Robinson goes to Arizona to be the number 1 or the number 2 for Kyler Murray. They already have DeAndre Hopkins. So DeAndre Hopkins and Allen Robinson in Arizona would be lethal. Number 16, the Dallas Cowboys. My bold prediction for them is that they re-sign Dak Prescott, and I'm going to give out the contract as well. 4 years, $100 million. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's not bad. You know why that's not bad? Because he's coming off an injury, and I think that Dallas wants to sign him to a team-friendly deal, and I think that Dak wants to be back in Dallas. So I'm going to say Dallas re-signs Dak Prescott. 4 years, $100 million. 15, the Miami Dolphins. My bold prediction is that they acquire Deshaun Watson from the Houston Texans for 2021 first, 2021 Texans first, 2022 and 2023 firsts from Miami, and Tua Tagovailoa. So that would mean that Tua Tagovailoa and Devontae Smith reunite after all. And I think that's a great trade for both sides. And Miami obviously upgrades. They're going for it with Robert Flores and that defense. And they obviously want to make improvements on their offense as well. So, Deshaun Watson to Miami. Number 14, the Tennessee Titans. My bold prediction is that they'll franchise tag and extend Corey Davis. Corey Davis coming off a career year. And I think that Tennessee wants to keep him around to be their second wideout to A.J. Brown. Number 13, the Seattle Seahawks. My bold prediction is that they'll sign Desmond King. They need help in the secondary. And Desmond King is a talented player. Tennessee didn't get much for him, but I don't think that they will bring him back. I think Seattle signs him. Number 12, the New Orleans Saints. My bold prediction is that they will acquire Sam Darnold from the New York Jets for a 2021 first and a 2022 second. So Sam Darnold to New Orleans. I'm going to say that Drew Brees retires. Jameis Winston goes elsewhere. And Sam Darnold becomes the successor for Drew Brees as he goes to the New Orleans Saints. Number 11, the Los Angeles Chargers. My bold prediction is that they'll re-sign Hunter Henry. This has to be done, in my opinion. Hunter Henry's a solid tight end when he's healthy. Justin Herbert obviously needs weapons around him. He needs a better offensive line as well, but I think that they'll re-sign Hunter Henry. Number 10, the Pittsburgh Steelers. My bold prediction is that they'll re-sign both Bud Dupree and Alejandro Villanueva. Those two guys are important to their success. I think that Ben Roethlisberger will return, and I think that they will re-sign both Bud Dupree and Alejandro Villanueva. One of them will get the franchise tag and get extended, and the other, I think, will just be re-signed. Number 9, the San Francisco 49ers. I just think that they had a bad year last year because of two big injuries to Nick Bosa and Jimmy Garoppolo. But my bold prediction for them is that they'll re-sign Trent Williams. Trent Williams was a big part of that team, and I think that they will re-sign him. They didn't give up that much for him, but they certainly would be wise to re-sign him, so I think they'll re-sign him. Number 8, the Indianapolis Colts. My bold prediction is that they'll acquire Jared Goff and the 2022 third-round pick from the Detroit Lions for a 2021 second, a 2022 second, and a 2022 fifth. As much as the Lions say that they love Jared Goff, this is a team that has to blow it up and rebuild. They know it. I think they will blow it up and rebuild. They'll trade Jared Goff. They'll franchise tag and extend Kenny Golladay like I predicted. So I think that Goff goes to the Colts, and I think that is a great situation for Goff, and I think that the Colts are going to be able to take on his money. Number 7, the Cleveland Browns. My bold prediction is that they sign Marcus Williams away from the Saints. The Browns need help at safety, so I think that Marcus Williams would help that team tremendously. Number 6, the Green Bay Packers. Yes, they are just in the NFC title game, but I have them at 6. My bold prediction is that they sign Will Fuller. They tried to trade for him at the deadline, so it only makes sense for them to sign him. He becomes the number 2 to Devontae Adams that they lacked for a while now. They have a bunch of number 3s. I think Fuller can come in and be a great number 2. Number 5, the Baltimore Ravens. My bold prediction is that they sign John Johnson. He will certainly help their secondary, and they need help there, so I think that would be a good pickup for them. Number 4, the Buffalo Bills. My bold prediction is that they'll sign Mike Hilton away from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They also need help in their secondary, and I think Hilton would be a good veteran to add to that secondary. Number 3, the Los Angeles Rams. My bold prediction is that they'll sign Shaq Barrett away from the Bucs. The Bucs can't afford to keep everybody. I think they lose somebody, and that someone I think will be Shaq Barrett. I think the Rams want an all-star lineup and an all-star roster, and I think that they could use some help in their linebacking situation. And Shaq Barrett and Aaron Donald on their front 7. Look out. Number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs. My bold prediction is that they'll sign Brandon Scherf away from Washington. They need help on the interior of their offensive line. I think that Scherf would be a great addition to that team. And number 1, if there wasn't any doubt, your new Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My bold prediction is that they'll franchise tag but won't extend Chris Godwin. So Chris Godwin back for at least one more season, but I don't think that he'll be extended before the start of the season. Miscellaneous predictions. I have Levante David re-signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Juju Smith-Schuster to the Saints as he will become a weapon for Sam Darnold, as the Saints will have Juju Smith-Schuster, Emmanuel Sanders, and that leads me to a trade. I have the Saints trading away Michael Thomas to the New York Football Jets for the 2021 Rams pick, a 2022 second, which the Jets will own, and the 2021 fourth-round pick from the Jets. So 2 separate trades. The Sam Darnold trade and the Michael Thomas trade I have separately because there's just a lot of moving pieces, and I didn't want to make that one big trade, so I have it 2 separate trades. So Sam Darnold and Michael Thomas pretty much switch spots. Michael Thomas becomes the WR1 for the Jets and supposedly Justin Fields, according to my predictions. And then Sam Darnold will have Juju Smith-Schuster and Emmanuel Sanders, which isn't bad. It's better than what he had on the Jets. Both of those guys would have been number 1s on the Jets. So Sam Darnold goes to a good situation in New Orleans. Michael Thomas, obviously, it did not end well for him in New Orleans. So my perhaps boldest prediction on here is that Michael Thomas gets traded from the New Orleans Saints. And I think that the New Orleans Saints, as a result of trading Michael Thomas, will extend Alvin Kamara, which obviously would help, in theory, Sam Darnold, because that's who I have getting traded to the Saints. Corey Linsley re-signs with the Packers. They need to re-sign him. He was a big help on that offensive line this year. T.Y. Hilton re-signs with the Indianapolis Colts. That guy's just a Colt for life. So I think T.Y. re-signs with them. And the Browns do not trade Odell Beckham Jr. Do not. I just don't think that they'll trade him. That's going to be everybody's darling prediction, just like it was last year. I predicted the Browns trading Odell Beckham last year. It didn't work. So I'm not going to fall for that trap again. And I think I had the Giants trading Odell. I don't know if it was the year they actually traded him or the year before that. I think it was the year before that. I think I predicted him going to the Browns for the number 4 overall pick. At least I had him going to the right team. But yeah, the Browns do not trade Odell Beckham Jr. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think, signs with, I'm going to say, Patriots. I think that they want a veteran in there to go with the rookie, so I'm going to say that Fitzmagic to New England. Jameis Winston, I think, will go to a team that could use a solid backup. I'm going to say that the Eagles signed Jameis. I know it's like an LOL kind of thing, but they do have Jalen Hurts too, so that wouldn't make sense. So take back that prediction. Jameis Winston. I almost said Philly, but I want to pull the trigger because they have Jalen Hurts. And I think that they're going to have Nick Foles. Let's go with the Bears. So the Bears would have Carson Wentz and Jameis. And if Wentz gets hurt, they could just put in Jameis. So Jameis will be in a similar situation as he was with New Orleans, except no Taysom Hill there. So that's an interesting prediction. Marcus May is a free agent. I talked about him already. Keanu Neal. I think Keanu Neal signs with Cincinnati and goes with Joe Burrow as they try to make over their team a little bit. I'm going to say that Curtis Samuel signs with the New York Giants. That makes a lot of sense to me. Dave Gettleman obviously drafted him in Carolina, so it only makes sense for the Giants to sign him. So their receiving core would be Darius Slayton, Godwin, Sterling Shepard, and Golden Tate. I think the Giants just release. They'll try to trade him, but I think that he gets released. I just think that he's just overpaid and just an overrated player, period. He's not a number 1. To me, he's a 2. And I think that the team that could potentially sign him could be Miami. I think that'd be a good fit for him going with Deshaun Watson, assuming that they trade for Watson. So be him and Devontae Parker. So either the Dolphins acquire Golden Tate via trade or they sign him after the Giants cut him. And I think that's the latter because obviously the Dolphins I have here are giving up all their assets for Deshaun Watson. All right, so there you have it, the NFL offseason predictions for this year. And last but not least, my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. There's some interesting ones, to say the least. My best bet will be in college basketball because that's where I think some value lies tonight, or today, I should say. And I'm going to go with SMU minus 5.5 at East Carolina. I think that they are undervalued here. I know there's heavy juice, so I'm going to lay the 4.5 with SMU against East Carolina. So there you have it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything in college basketball, NBA, and the NHL, and looking ahead to tomorrow's slate. And tonight, I may or may not be having a guest. I could very well be having Jeff Maglicetti on the show. He hasn't been on in a while. We'll recap the Super Bowl, and we'll preview the NASCAR season and talk some WNBA free agency and maybe a little bit of Seton Hall basketball and Big East basketball in general, like we did a little bit with Derek last week. I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.